All right. All right. Hey, good evening, everybody. It is Monday night, off the cuff. I fixed that audio at the last second there. I caught that. Thank you, Salty Pork Chops. Apologize for the late entry tonight. Late notice, too. Apparently, when I scheduled it, with everything going on this morning, I left it as unlisted. So I was trying to go live, and I'm like, wait a second. I don't have a chat. Like, I can't even open the chat. And then I figured it out. Let me turn my fan down because it's got a lot of background noise. All right. Can't wait till the new HVAC gets installed. This place is going to be snowing soon. So how's everybody doing tonight? It's been an eventful day. We've got some big news coming out of the NFL. Talking about Cam Sutton. We're going to talk about that tonight. What else do I have on my roster here? Let's replay this roster. So Cam Sutton, Amon-Ra does the unthinkable. It's kind of a question. Will he? Between him and Calvin Johnson, can he really pull it off? Can the Lions collapse in 2024? That's a big question, something that was raised by a couple of media outlets. And then Michael Thomas. So are the Lions interested in a wide receiver? Absolutely not. So I'm not real certain why another article was posted talking about Michael Thomas being a great fit for the Detroit Lions. But I might as well touch on it for just a moment. But anyway, let's kick it off with some sponsors like we always do. Sports Spider. Get all of your Detroit Lions news at sportspider.com. That's sport, SPYDER.com. Love them, man. You guys can create your own your own little playlist, if you will, and you direct what happens in your feed. It's free to sign up. Check out sportspider.com. Get all of your local writers, your insiders, your podcast, you name it, right there on sportspider.com. And then, of course, we have Uper Lights. Eric obviously owns Uper Lights. He does an excellent job with his company. But if you guys are into rock hounding or if you want to get into it, check out uperlights.com today. They have amazing these nanometer, I think he calls them, lights. Everything from the Mini, the C8, the Aurora, starting at just $20 on up. Pretty soon there's going to be a rocked on package made for you guys. So check out uperlights.com. Get all of your supplies for rock hounding right there. Support a local business, uperlights.com. All right. It sounds like my mic is really hot. Is it really loud tonight? Seems like it's really loud. Maybe I just need to turn my headphones down a little. So anyway, tonight's goals. Let's smash that like button tonight, especially if you're going to like this information, this content that I'm going to be bringing, talking about Amon-Ra St. Brown. But before I get there, I think the biggest news, now we don't know everything, but I think the biggest news is right here. Let me get some of this stuff out of the way, and we'll save that for later. Cam Sutton suspended 8 weeks by the NFL for domestic violence arrest, according to Pittsburgh Steelers Now. Cam Sutton has been suspended 8 weeks by the NFL after his domestic violence arrest. Now, as you guys know, this issue really hinders upon whether or not the Lions are going to get $10.5 million back. You know, just to round it to 10.5. So we don't have a full answer, but if I understand the policy, right, that the Lions filed this under, and according to multiple sources, Cam Sutton is also filing a grievance against the Lions. Not sure if that's been filed yet. It's been a couple of weeks now since I reported on it. Haven't heard anything. Maybe he was waiting to see what the NFL was going to do. So these two kind of play off each other. But the way I understand the policy, if you violate this policy, I mean, what's done is done. The NFL needed to suspend him for that personal conduct policy to be violated, which then the Lions should have everything wrapped up in a nice little bow, and they should be able to get their money back. Now, I've seen crazy things happen in court myself, so who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? But according to the Pittsburgh Steelers, Sutton's been suspended for 8 games without pay. Now, that's a big one, without pay, by the NFL for violation of the team's personal conduct policy. The league announced this Monday, right around 5:10-ish. I was going to do a video right away, but then I was like, yeah, I'll just wait till 7 p.m. So Sutton was suspended for violating the domestic violence portion of the league's conduct policy. And when he was arrested for domestic assault earlier this offseason, Sutton was originally charged with a felony. And before, it was reduced to a misdemeanor. As you guys know, he was on the run. I mean, he was booking it wherever he was. I mean, it was kind of hilarious, but not really, that he was in Allen Park working out like the day after this alleged incident. And nobody was the wiser. That to me is just nuts. And it took a lot of guts by Cam Sutton to pull that off. But anyway, it was lowered to a misdemeanor. And at that point, he entered a pretrial diversion program that including admitting guilt. And the NFL independently investigated the allegations and confirmed that Sutton violated the league's policy. Sutton spent 3 weeks earlier this offseason wanted by police after he was alleged to have assaulted a woman in a home in the Lutz, Florida area on March 7th. And he was released by the Detroit Lions on March 21st, just a day later after being notified of the warrant for his arrest. Now, after 1 year of his $33 million contract, all of this comes to a head for the Lions. And it's been a big to-do, right? We want our team to stay, in good shape. Obviously, we want players that can play. Look, Sutton could have been a great corner. I don't think he was our number one. I don't think he ever would have been. Now, had we brought in Terry and Arnold and Ennis Rakestraw this year with Cam Sutton, yeah, maybe he could have played at a better rate. But you know what? We don't want guys like this on the team. And there's a reason for the culture and the identity that the Detroit Lions organization is putting together. And that's also why your Detroit Lions are one of the lowest, or how do I say that? They're one of the teams that has been the least arrested in like the last 20 some odd years. I think they have 19 arrests in like the last 20 some years. And they're really low on the list, like bottom 3 or 5 in the NFL. That's pretty solid, man. Like that's real solid work. I mean, I think that just preaches to what the Lions have always tried to be about, good characters. Then we've had some guys that done some stupid stuff. But it hasn't been crazy, to a certain degree. I mean, there's been some wild things that have happened, but pretty well-behaved team for the most part, I guess is what I would say. But let me shout out the chat tonight, see who we got with us tonight. We have Bucky's in the house, Salty Pork Chops, Mike P, Tracy. Who else is in here? It's probably a light night. We got King SJ in the house, too. Salty Pork Chop says, Cam Sutton beats his wife, gets 8 games? I don't get it. So betting on college football or basketball is just a little better than beating your spouse. NFL needs to get it together. Yeah, I'm totally in agreement with you. Like, let me correct one thing. I don't think it was his wife, though. I think it was his child's mother. They might have been dating or whatever. I think they have a child in common, or I hope she wasn't pregnant, but no, they have a child in common. There was a paternity issue going on between them. But either way, spouse, non-spouse, it was a female. Like, shouldn't happen. So I'm in total agreement. Yeah. So you can bet on football once and get suspended for a year, CJ Moore, Quintez Cephas, or you can go and smack somebody up and play the second half of the season. It doesn't make any sense. Now, I tried to go to bat for the NFL a few weeks ago when I was reporting on some of this stuff, and I said that they've been doing a much better job at promoting, domestic violence is bad. Like, don't do it. They had some harsher punishments, over the last decade. I mean, it was kind of ever since the Ray Rice incident. There was a couple of other ones, but they really started to crack down. And for those reasons, I thought that they were doing a much better job. We were seeing a lot less incidents in the NFL. And overall, I think we've seen a lot less incidents in the NFL. There's been a rash of things this year. But this it boggles your mind, doesn't it? Like, I can gamble and be suspended indefinitely, or I can go slap up my wife and I can play. It doesn't make any sense. It's backwards. So NFL, you need to continue to do better. Good point. Good point, Salty. Good point. Bobby Stark's in the house. Says, I watch every show. I just don't comment, bro, but I'm here. How are you? I'm doing great, Bobby. Doing great. And I appreciate you watching all the shows, man. Appreciate it. It's going to be a light night tonight. I can just tell. I didn't get anything out on time. People probably join later, but it's Monday. We had a rough morning this morning, but as you can tell, I typically don't have audio or video or any other type of issues. It's just bringing in collab cams or bringing in a browser source for whatever reason. We just have issues with OBS, and it's not fun. What's up next on the docket here before we get to the main guts of tonight? Can the Lions collapse in Michael Thomas? So, let's put Michael Thomas to bed real quick. I think that's probably a good place for me to go. Michael Thomas. So, a couple of things where did it go? What did I do with it? One sec. Here we go. So Mike Moratis of Sporting News put this out and said the Detroit Lions could use more help at wide receiver. I don't think that he pays attention to what all of the other writers have put out and speaking about, Brad Holmes or Dan Campbell and things that they've mentioned to, the writers or whatever, or interviews they've done. But quite simply, Brad Holmes says we're not taking any more applications for employment in the wide receiver room. Like, we're done. So quit asking. And according to some of the writers that reported that, the Lions have been approached by various wide receivers, and the answer has just been, sorry, we're full. No room on the roster right now. And it makes sense. I mean, they have a ton of guys in that room, and there's only 5 to 6 spots that are probably going to be filled. I'd say definitely 5, possibly 6. But anyway, this article goes on to state that the team is depending heavily on the relative unknown in Jameson Williams, and that he lacks ideal depth. Jared Goff lacks ideal depth behind Amon-Ra St. Brown. Now, that part I could agree with, because Jameson Williams is unknown at this point. He's a hot flash in the pan in some games, and then he disappears the rest of the game, or he doesn't do anything all game and then all of a sudden appears at the right time, or he doesn't do anything for 3 or 4 or 5 games in a row and has a few drops. So we've kind of seen a little bit of everything, but not a whole lot of consistency. So for that reason, the relative unknown is a very fair statement, but I think that the Lions are ready to absolve Jameson Williams of the past and say, look, this is your year, kid. Like, this is it. You've got to go get it, and we need you to go get it. So put it all together and go out there and give us your best shot. We're not going to bring in more guys to make you feel uncomfortable. We're going to lead with this group, and you've got to get out there and show us what you're all about. Prove to everybody why we took you at number 12. Don't make us look like fools. That's, I can only imagine, would be some of the conversations I would have anyway. But I can imagine that maybe, that's the gist of what's getting said to Jameson Williams this season. I expect high things from him. And I know that I've had an indifference of opinion about Williams, and it's more of a critical response, if you will, a reaction, if you will, to what he's done on the field. It's not against him personally or as a player. It's, this is what happened. This is how I feel about it kind of reaction. And some of my videos or some of my post-game reactions have been that way. I'm a wide open book when it comes to transparency. I want to make sure that I leave everything out there and I don't leave any stone unturned. I really want to try to get everything in the wide open so everyone can make their own opinions and at least have, a lot of information to base that opinion on. And I think I'm pretty fair. I don't think that I'm overly negative on Aiden Hutchinson or Jameson Williams. Those have been the two top targets, I think, for me over the last 16 months or so. But you see, I say positive things about both, and I'm expecting great things from both. But anyway, this article goes on to say that Michael Thomas, it's being suggested that the Lions should sign him. Certainly he's not an elite player, or at least the elite player he once was, but still could provide another much needed depth option behind Williams and St. Brown. I get it. He's another player that played for the Saints. So there's relationships there. And it would make sense. He's a little older. Does he still have a little bit left in the tank? Probably. Can he be explosive? Sure. It's funny that sitting here at 44 years old and we think that 29-year-olds or, 30-year-olds are old. I would love to go back 14 years in a heartbeat. I would love to go back 14 years. But anyway, according to Bet Online, the Lions are tied for the 7th highest odds to sign the veteran wide receiver at plus 1,400. And no, I'm not advocating that you go and make this bet. I'm just stating what's in this article. The teams have given better odds. The teams that have been given better odds to sign Thomas are the Dallas Cowboys. That would make sense with the CeeDee Lamb issues. Buffalo Bills, obviously, who, traded off Diggs. The Baltimore Ravens, they're always looking for players, especially in the wide receiver room. Denver Broncos is a mess. Kansas City Chiefs, who knows what players are going to be available by week 1 and who's going to be in jail. And then, of course, the Jacksonville Jaguars. You just paid Trevor Lawrence a crap ton of money. You might want to put some receivers around him. So those seem to make more sense to me than the Detroit Lions. Obviously, we know what the Detroit Lions are doing right now, and that's absolutely nothing with the wide receiver room. We got camp battles to worry about, not free agents right now. So let me get to the chat here, see what you guys got to say. I see it's motoring along in here. Oh, let's see. Casey still finishing those 4th of July hot dogs and brats. Only a few beers left. I'm surprised there's even any beers left. I don't drink really, but very few and far between. But in my heyday, there wouldn't have been any left. Let's see here. Less than 2 weeks until rookies report. Absolutely. King SJ says technology wasn't my friend today either, Will. Yeah, it definitely wasn't mine. Hasn't been on just about every Monday for the last 4 or 5 or 6 weeks. The Lions, Casey says the Lions have Monty, Gibbs, Laporta for catches and don't need the traditional wide receiver group. NFL has changed and Goff is the new prototype. Man, that's a pretty smart comment there. I like it. The fact that we have this unusual cast of characters that nobody wanted, right? The Lions took them all way too early. What are you doing taking a running back at 12 and a tight end at 34? Come on. And they could turn out to be darn near all pro players in their first season. Donna Milliken, welcome into the show tonight. No reason why we can't improve drastically with the ability to complete a full training camp this year. Talking about Jameson Williams. Bucky says, at will, let's say we lose one receiver to injury. It could be any of them on the final 53. Do you still feel the same about the room? So injury kind of changes everything. And I think that it really depends on who is injured. So if we lose Khalif Raymond, I'm good with the room. If we lose DPJ, I may not be as good because he's size, right? He's got boundary ability, X receiver ability. If we lose Antoine Green, I'm probably good because he's not going to get a ton of target share anyway, at least yet. I have to wait and see what happens in training camp to see if he emerges, see if he just explodes and you can't keep him off the field. But if we were to lose a player like Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jamison Williams, absolutely, I think that changes the mindset of how you approach the room. How do you approach the wide receiver group as a whole? And you're going to have to go out and find somebody. If it's, 4 games or longer, you have to. If it's a couple of games, you can probably get through it. But there's too many circumstances, I think there. Too many questions that could be unanswered. Alina MCG says, I would also look to upgrade. JMO ain't the guy. Ooh, an indictment on JMO. JMO is not the guy. I hope you're wrong. Peter Van Larhoven, been a minute since you've been in here. He says, do you think Holmes has learned his lesson? Cutting the UDFAs and keeping poor players, Kabinda, while we lost Sterling and Nowaski to the Cardinals. Give me 1 second. My dog is howling, so I better let him in. So, Peter, that's a good point. So I spoke about that. Oh, Lord, I probably spoke about that maybe this morning, definitely last week, Friday and Thursday. I spoke about the fact of, losing Starling Thomas was a big one. I thought that was a huge issue. Matter of fact, it was Friday during the 53-man roster predictions. And I hope that he's learned his lesson. I think that there was a much bigger issue there than just losing Starling Thomas. I think the bigger issue was they had an opportunity to stash Emmanuel Mosley at that point. Big mistake. Now, with the Trevor Nowaski, we'll never know what he was going to turn out to be. I don't really know what he would have turned out to be, but the simple fact that the Lions did certain things with elevating him so that he wouldn't get poached, and then they put him back down and he gets poached, to me, that didn't make any sense. You knew that teams wanted him, and you knew that he was pretty good. So why did you put him back down? Like, what did we do that was so important? Like, grabbing Zach Ertz. Well, he never played. And I know this happened before that, but, you could have cut Isaiah Buggs a long time ago. There was other things that they could have done. There was other players that we did not need, especially if you thought that this guy's future was bright. So I'm hoping they learned. I mean, those are small lessons, to learn. I mean, we're talking UDFAs, and UDFAs, what are they? A 1 in 1,000 chance that, if they've made it to the NFL, they're a 1 in 1,000 chance of actually making a roster and playing, a lot of time. Very few and far between. But I think that the Brad Holmes evaluation of players and the talent that's out there is much better than most teams. I think that our group of scouts and the individuals that are out there looking at the talent do it at a much higher level than some of these other teams. So I would trust in the process. Like if you've identified this individual for whatever reason, stick to that. Like don't let that guy go unless it's an absolute necessity. So I hope so. I hope so. Good question. Good question. Walter Tran says JMO's going to prove people wrong, and I'm right there, man. I'm rolling in that boat with you. So let's get to the next topic here. Well, it looks like I left the topics up. Sorry about that. We got Michael Thomas, we put that one to bed. Cam Sutton's to bed. Let's go to, can the Lions collapse? Oops. Sorry. Didn't mean to do that. Can the Lions collapse? Maybe I'm going to collapse first. So what this is can the Lions go from first to worst? Is there a meltdown situation here in 2024? And there was an article in the Detroit Free Press written by Nate Davis of USA Today. And I came across this article and I'm like, you know what? I think this guy did a pretty decent job of explaining some things. Let's go over it. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to read this or not, but here's what he had to say. He said, and I'll just say this. Do I think it's going to happen? Personally, no, but let's get there. Let's figure out why. So he says the NFL is deliberately designed to foster parity mechanisms like the draft scheduling formula, free agency, and or salary cap, allowing bad teams to quickly improve, yet challenging the good ones to maintain long-term success. I don't know if I agree with that whole, statement, because if bad teams could quickly improve, then why were the Lions bad for all of those years? Now, that's a very complex question or statement, because we had an extremely bad general manager for many seasons. Looks like it's potty time for the dog. So let's take a quick ad break. I'll be back in probably 30 seconds. Come on, Gunner. All right. Sorry about that. Ever since the other dog passed away, Gunner's like just attached at the hip. So some days he's just got to be with me wherever I'm at. So what I was saying here is I don't know if I necessarily agree with that statement. I don't think that bad teams can just suddenly get great overnight. I think it takes a lot of moving parts to make that happen, a lot of right decisions to make that happen. So anyway, he goes on to say that summertime is also the time when optimism tends to run at its collective apex among all 32 fan bases, that the downtrodden among them willingly embracing the fact that since the league realigned to 8 divisions, at least one club that has finished last or tied for last place finished first the next year. So he's outlining and identifying the fact that someone that did terribly this last season is going to finish first or near first this year. The worst to first, and now the first to worst scenario. So can it happen for the Lions? I really don't think so, but let's look at what he's trying to say. He's saying that coming off the franchise's first ever NFC North title, Detroit Lions coach Dan Campbell knows his players need to be even sharper in 2024 as they morph from the divisional underdogs to the top dogs. And here's a quote by Dan Campbell. He says, "I think that we all know what we are capable of here. There is a belief, but I think the belief comes from the work that you put in and doing all of the little things right, and starting back from the ground up and surpassing where you were at, building from the ground up, and now we have to get even further. We've got to think a little bit different here. There's got to be a different level of focus and detail of what we do. That can never be lost." It's a great statement by Dan Campbell. It absolutely is. So what does it all mean? Are we going to go from first to worst? We just went from worst to first. I mean, are we really going to curtail it that badly and fall back down? And I don't see it happening. The team is too good. The coaching staff is too good. The ether is too high. The fan base is behind this team. I just don't see it. I don't see it happening. But I want to go through the teams that he brought up and why some of these other teams make a little bit more sense. So there's the list. And number one on this list is the team that I also said I felt wasn't even going to make the playoffs this year. And that's the team that's looking to three-peat, the Kansas City Chiefs. They're obviously a team chasing the first ever Super Bowl three-peat. It's also riding a stretch that includes 8 consecutive AFC West crowns and may have markedly improved its roster coming off of an 11-6 regular season in 2023 that was below par relative to the organization's recent success. And then you have to factor in that no divisional rival reached the playoffs last season. The Raiders, the Los Angeles Chargers are both breaking in new coaches, and the Denver Broncos that appear to be in full-fledged rebuild mode. Barring an injury to Mahomes, Kansas City looks especially safe and potentially a speed-infused juggernaut in if the offense, now boasting quick strike wide receivers in Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy, return to its explosive form of the Tyreek Hill years. So this list is who's currently most at risk of such a plunge. And they're ranking the last season's 8 division winners based on their exposure, least to most. So he has the Chiefs as the least team to go from first to worst. I'm the exact opposite. I think that they can go from first to worst in a heartbeat because of all of the issues around this team. Now, the only thing that I would say that's in their back pocket right now is Travis Kelce, Mahomes, and the fact that they brought in this speedy receiver and Xavier Worthy, and then Hollywood Brown, who's been around for a little bit, so he knows what he's doing. Mahomes will actually have at least one wide receiver that can catch the ball and play at a high level. Then you have Kelce. So they're not missing talent. Their defense is still pretty good. They just have a lot of off-field legal issues that are surrounding and enveloping this team, creating distractions. And sometimes those distractions are just too much. And it tears your team apart. And we've seen it happen with multiple teams over the years. So the second team is the San Francisco 49ers. And he believes here that, same thing, that this team still remains a cut above the rest of the NFC West. And they're just not going to fall off a cliff this year. I would tend to agree. I think the San Francisco 49ers are good enough to win some games in a poor division or in a division that maybe is a little bit easier to win in right now. But beyond that, I don't see the San Francisco 49ers being able to go all the way. If they truly lose Brandon Ayuk, I mean, this is crazy to me. Like, this is a crazy argument that the Lions overpaid for Amari St. Brown and the San Francisco 49ers were not going to make that mistake. Can you really compare Amon-Ra St. Brown and Brandon Ayuk? I mean, if you were to put them both side by side, who are you going to say, put your bias aside, who are you going to say was the better wide receiver last year or the last couple of years? It might be a tough question, but I'm unquestionably going to choose Amon-Ra St. Brown because I know him better as a player and what he's able to do and what he has done. But the fact that they're willing to throw that player away and not really replace him with a like-minded individual or an individual that can do what he does on the field, that leans for me that maybe the San Francisco 49ers could be in trouble this year. And maybe they should be a team that I should have been looking at a little bit harder as a team that maybe might have more trouble than the Chiefs. I don't know. for as much talent as they had last year, man, we sure kicked the snot out of them quickly. We just couldn't hold it together. And I think that was, you know what I honestly think? I know I'm kind of going off the rails here, but I honestly feel like the Lions coaches at halftime kind of had this holy shit, we're winning moment. Like, they didn't know what to do. They froze like deer in headlights. Like, I'm out in the middle of the road. What do I do? It was, oh my God, we're up by 17 points. It's halftime. Everyone's healthy. Let's go scuttle the game. I mean, I don't know what they said to each other, but it's like the moment was too big and they didn't expect to be there. They didn't expect to be anywhere close, I guess. I mean, I don't know. I shouldn't say that because I think Dan Campbell always expects to win and always expects to be in the hunt and expects his players to play at a high level. But man, I just don't understand what happened in that game that would make you ruin a 17-point lead. It just still burns me up. And we're going to do a private viewing of it. We're going to watch it together one of these evenings. We'll do the fast version of it and relive it. Why not? Let's get it done before training camp. So the third team. So remember, this is least risk here to worst would be the Buffalo Bills. So though they've captured the AFC East throne 4 years in a row, the New York Jets and the Miami Dolphins are also are coming to usurp it. And the Bills appear vulnerable after an offseason of roster adjustments necessitated, I totally butchered that word, by their bloated salary cap. And they seemingly unrelated and the seemingly unrelated decision to purge wide receiver Stephon Diggs. Still, they charged back to first place late last season after installing Joe Brady as their offensive coordinator in November and then using a more balanced approach and de-emphasized Diggs for the rest of the season. So even if Buffalo is eclipsed by the Jets and or the Finns this year, it's hard to see the Bills dropping below the rebooting New England Patriots. I think that's a good point, fair point. The Bills have kind of just been like this better than average team, I don't know, for a decade now. They're like good at winning ball games and kind of getting in the dance, and then they just kind of fade away. They never get hot. Like, they just never get that motor all the way running. Not the Lions, and that's who's number 4. So I was glad to see that the Lions finished in the middle of the pack and not at the end of the pack, because that would be the most risky opportunity to go from first to worst. So let's see what he had to say about the Detroit Lions. And then we're going to move on to Amon-Ra St. Brown and Calvin Johnson and why the unthinkable is about to happen. This could be the year for Campbell and company, is what this article states. And it says, the woebegone organization will be to its first Super Bowl. The Lions seem to have talent and culture and cultural buy-ins in spades coming off of a near miss in the 2023 NFC title game. But like the Bills, they seem to have legit pursuers in the Green Bay Packers and apparently, I'm glad he mentioned the word apparently, resuscitated Chicago Bears. Yet, if things get really sideways, Detroit could be in jeopardy of also being bypassed by Minnesota, given the talent. Yeah, nope, thumbs down on that one. That's not happening. Young as some of it is, that remains on that roster. Oh, as young as some of it is, that remains on that roster, to say nothing of a very capable coaching staff. So what he's trying to say here is that the Lions, great team, bought in, solid players. I mean, we've got the best players under 25 years old in the NFL. We've got 5. I think there's 5 or 6 under 25 that are also some of the best players in the NFL, and or at least the top 10 in the NFL in their respective categories and positions. No one's touching the Lions in the NFC North. Yes, there's going to be some dogfights with the Packers. Yeah, there could be a bloody nose or so with the Chicago Bears, but I don't think that the Lions are going to not end up on top in those situations. I feel like we've come too far now and we know what to expect and there's no looking back. It's the rest of the league that I think this team needs to worry about. There's a few games in this schedule that are going to be very tough. But I think what people are forgetting is how, and I hate to say this, easy this schedule really is. 3 games outdoors, none of them in cold weather, or one of them in cold weather maybe, towards the tail end of the season. The majority of the games indoors. Come on. The Lions have a very good schedule. I don't really care for the bye week. But like I've always said, you either want it early or you want it late. The Lions playing on Thanksgiving should have their bye week around that time, and the NFL doesn't get it. They just don't get it. They always screw it up. That's the hardest part. That's the hardest stretch, is those 3 or 4 games that they're playing in like 27 days. It's like 3 and 11, something crazy like that, or 3 and 20. No, it's 3 and 11. And then it's like 4 and 19 days, maybe something like that. So, Donna Milliken says, heard earlier that Williams won't sign his rookie contract. What? Said he was worth more than that. Look, that cocky dude, there's no way. Didn't he really say that? I haven't heard anything like that. I haven't really paid attention to any Bears news, though, lately. But as of 8 hours ago, Caleb Williams has not signed his rookie deal. Let me read this. Now you've got me interested, so now I want to read this real quick. Mike Florio offered 3 reasons why Williams and Odunze may have yet to sign their rookie contracts. Signing bonus cash flow. How much of the signing bonus is paid up front? Oh, geez, oh, Pete's. I just lost the article. Yep, I lost it. I'm not going to be able to find it now. But Mike Florio listed some factors that may be delaying the proceedings. Florio said that the signing bonus cash flow might be one of the issues. Players might ask for more signing bonus up front. They also note how much the signing bonus is deferred and for how long. Some teams may try to push some of it by a year or longer. And then Mike put voiding of guarantees second on the list. What it takes to let a team wipe out the remaining guarantees might delay the signing. He added that it has been a significant issue in many deals in the past. Sometimes suspension for certain on-field infractions opens the door to erasing the guaranteed money. See, there's little things that we don't know that are in these contracts. And yeah, if you're going to be able to wipe out a player's contract of guaranteed money because they got some sort of an on-field penalty, that's garbage. That's part of the game. Now, I would say, okay, if it's pushing a ref, right? If it's doing something to your own team or your own coach, if it's fighting or something like that, something crazy. But I mean, it would have to be like really crazy fighting, like not just a push and a shove and ha ha ha, it would have to be something nutty, like what happened with Myles Garrett and the whole helmet incident. So if it's something nuts, yeah, I could understand that. But if it's just normal play stuff, normal penalties in the penalty book, let it ride. There's no reason to cancel someone's contract. But that's where these NFL owners are trying to get out of these deals as much as they can. That's why I always say it's a fugazi. They are. All these deals are fugazis. So thanks for bringing that up, because now I'm going to have to go in and read more about it. So what do we got going on in the chat here? Kamal, down here in Alabama, dealing with these thunderstorms and tornado warnings. and all that crap. Yeah, we had a brief storm up here tonight. Hope you're staying safe down there. Let's see. What do we got in here? Mike P says they had done poor in the third quarter all year long. Why would that change? They ran into a team that made adjustments and kicked their butts in the third and couldn't come back in the fourth. Great analogy, man, and great statement. You know, we could not fix I just don't understand that either. The third quarter baffles the crap out of me. It's like, what have you done in every third quarter that you've come out and played terribly? What have you done? Because whatever you've done, don't ever do that again. And then next week, if you implement a new plan and it happens again, don't do that plan again. Move on to something different. And if the next week it happens again, well, there's 3 plans in a row you're no longer going to use. Maybe at some point, by the time you get to enough plans, you'll find something that works. And then you take that and then you open it up a little bit and try to figure out what else can work within, that scheme. Yeah, baffles me big time. The Lions always used to play great in the fourth quarter, it seemed like. Always the comeback cats, always. The third quarter, I don't feel we've ever had this bad of a season with third quarters, ever. Like that was atrocious, what happened. Like I've never witnessed that before by our Detroit Lions, ever. So the last topic for tonight, and I know it's already 8 o'clock, but I started a little bit late. Last topic for tonight. The Amon-Ra does the unthinkable. So I'm wondering, do you guys have any clue where I'm going with this? I know I didn't put anything in the description because all the descriptions are now changed for like SEO purposes and things of that nature and advertisers and all that good stuff. But where do you think I'm going with this? What's the unthinkable that can happen with Amon-Ra St. Brown and Calvin Johnson? I already got one text and someone asked me, where the statement was, Calvin Johnson's not coming back. There's no way he's coming back to play one season with Amon-Ra St. Brown. Or is he? No, that's not happening. He's too old. He could probably still go out there and hang with the best of them, but that's not what it's going to be. So here it is. I didn't think that this was going to be possible for a while. Let me make sure I get everything open so I can run through it. I didn't think that this was going to be possible for a while, but something just popped in my head yesterday. And matter of fact, the thumbnail from this morning had my thought process already on it, and I didn't change the thumbnail, so I changed the thumbnail after the show this morning. But Calvin Johnson and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Calvin Johnson being a Hall of Famer. Arguably one of the best wide receivers to ever come through the Detroit Lions organization. Had an amazing, 9-10 seasons with the Lions. And I got to thinking, is Amon-Ra going to be able to beat out Calvin Johnson, take over all the statistics that he put up? And if so, how long would it take? Can he do it? So I started to look. And I started with the first 3 seasons. Amon-Ra St. Brown from 2021 to 2023. And Calvin Johnson from 2007 to 2009. Now there's one argument that I know everyone is going to make. Or should I say other fans are going to make or whatever. But it's going to be, Will, come on. They weren't playing 17 games. So Amon-Ra is able to do it quicker or whatever because he gets an extra game every year. And soon probably 2 extra games a year. And I understand that argument. I get it. And I probably should do the stats with, some sort of delineating argument for that purpose, but I didn't. 2021 to 2023. So here's the comparison of Amon-Ra St. Brown and Calvin Johnson's stats for the first 3 seasons. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 315 receptions, and this does not include any playoffs. Reception yards, 3,768. 21 touchdowns, 49 games played. Calvin Johnson, 2007 to 2009. Receptions, 193. Do you guys remember how many Amon-Ra St. Brown had? 315. A full 122 more, a full season more than Calvin Johnson in the first 3 seasons as a Detroit Lion. Receiving yards, 3,071. Again, Amon-Ra St. Brown, 3,768. A full 700 yards more, or 697 yards more, whatever. 700 yards more than Calvin Johnson. And to your point, Lionized, if we take out that last game, okay, I don't think Calvin Johnson's getting 700 yards in a game. And I don't think that, if you were to go the other way and add a game, instead of taking a game away, you could add a game, I think, based on the averages. And I think that would kind of give you a more of a fair look at things, right? I mean, I think that that's the best way to do it. Maybe you add a game to Calvin Johnson's stats if you really want to break it all the way down. So Amon-Ra St. Brown averages 76.9 yards per game. Calvin Johnson averaged 68.25. So again, that's only a difference of about 8 yards a game, but it's significant. Especially when you're adding an extra game. At the end of the day, here's the argument for Amon-Ra St. Brown beating Calvin Johnson's stats: consistency and growth. Consistency and growth. He's consistently growing. Amon-Ra St. Brown has shown consistent improvement in production over the first 3 seasons. His reception numbers are significantly higher than Johnson's, with or without the extra game, indicating his reliability and his role as a primary target in this offense. And now that he's together with Jared Goff for another 4 seasons, I think that is a very significant component to Amon-Ra St. Brown being able to beat out everything that Calvin Johnson did. The question is, how quickly can he do it? The second thing for Amon-Ra St. Brown is yards and efficiency. So while Amon-Ra St. Brown has more receptions, he also has more total receiving yards, suggesting that he can both put up volume as a receiver and be a deep threat. His ability to accumulate yards at a higher rate than Johnson at this stage of their careers is noteworthy when you're given the facts that Johnson was huge and he could run like the wind. You had to triple team the guy and he was still pulling down balls. And Amon-Ra St. Brown is just out there beating guys with his 4 or 5 speed, just making guys look silly. And it doesn't make any bit of sense as to how he's able to do it, but he's doing it. Touchdowns. Although, where was I? Although they're even in touchdowns, 21 apiece. Although Johnson has more, although Johnson and St. Brown were tied for touchdowns, St. Brown's numbers that early in his career, his size, where this team came from, battling all of the things that it was battling. I think that Calvin Johnson kind of started off a little bit better. Am I wrong with saying that? I mean, he had Golden Tate around. He had Nate Burleson around. He had Matthew Stafford as a quarterback. I think that Calvin had a little bit better of a get off maybe his first season or 2. Brown is definitely on a better squad right now, for sure, is on a better squad. Then we got projections. So if Amon-Ra St. Brown continues on his current trajectory, maintaining or improving his production levels as they are right now, he could surpass Calvin Johnson's career totals for the Detroit Lions in fewer seasons. Johnson's career totals included, let me make sure this was right, 731 receptions, 11,619 reception yards, and 83 touchdowns over 9 seasons. When you look at Amon-Ra, when is he going to get there, right? So I'm going to total up. I'm going to do it live. I'm going to total up what he's done over 3 seasons. And then I'm going to multiply it by 9. So 315 divided by 3 is 105. We'll multiply that by 9. So in 9 seasons, Calvin Johnson had 731 receptions. By this math, Amon-Ra St. Brown would have 945 receptions, a full 214 more than Calvin Johnson. And then when you look at the game perspective, the yards perspective, 3,768 over the last 3 seasons. And if I were to multiply that by 9, St. Brown would not catch Calvin Johnson in the yards category. If you break it down that way. Now, if you go by yards per catch, I think that's where I came up with the number. So the yards per catch, let me go back to that. Yards per catch. Yards a game, yards per catch. Where is it at? 11.4. 11.4 yards times 945 receptions. He would still end up 1,000 yards short. Here's why. So it's going to take him 10 seasons to beat out Calvin Johnson. Can he do it sooner? He could, but he's going to really have to up his level and have a couple of seasons that are extremely high in reception yards. Calvin Johnson in 2011, so 2007, 08, 09, he had one good season, and that was in 08. And then in 2010, he really never looked back. 2010, he had 1,120 yards. And then 2011, first All-Pro. And then in 2011, 1,681. And then 2012, 1,964. Then 1,492, 1,077, 1,214. So those 2 years, 2011 and 2012, Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to have to figure out a way to either average, 1,400 yards per season. And that's going to be the question. What does he have to average to beat Calvin Johnson, right? What does he have to average? So he has to beat 11,619 yards. He already has 3,768, not including the playoffs. This is regular season only. And we're going to divide that by 6 seasons. He needs to average 1,309 yards per season, and he can do that. So that's where my math brings me on Amon-Ra St. Brown and my conclusion on the unthinkable happening for Amon-Ra St. Brown, because this is a big deal. Like, that's a ton of yards. That's a lot of receptions. It's Calvin Johnson. I mean, the dude was electric every single week in and week out. And I could only imagine if he actually played in every single game where his stats would have ended up. But conclusion from Amon-Ra St. Brown's early career stats suggest that he has the potential to surpass Calvin Johnson's career achievements. If he remains healthy, which he's shown to be very healthy, continues to develop, it is reasonable to project that Amon-Ra St. Brown could reach or exceed Johnson's career totals in a very comparable or shorter time, assuming that he averages 1,309 yards per season. So my question to you, do you feel that that is doable, given the fact that we have such a receiving threat in Laporta, the emergence of Jahmyr Gibbs, hopefully this season, and now Jameson Williams? Is that going to eat into Amon-Ra's targets? You guys have heard me say it. Amon-Ra is not going to have to do it all by himself. He's just going to have to be a player on this team that fits a role, just like everybody else. And those yards kind of get divvied up. Those catches get divvied up. Those, everything that they're doing as a team collectively is just going to kind of get divvied up so everybody can kind of carry the load. So that's my question. Do you think he can do it? When is he going to do it? Will he be a Lion for that many seasons? That's the biggest question. He's going to have to remain a Lion for probably another 6 seasons. J-Rod says Calvin's TD callback. I was bouncing off the wall with that one. There was a lot of us bouncing off the wall for that one. We watched it the other day. It was, a matter of fact, we did, what was it? The curse episode. We were talking about the curse. And I reviewed the Calvin Johnson catch rule. Man, we've seen now they've changed the rule. Like, all you have to do is have, all you have to do is have control of the ball as you cross the line. Calvin Johnson was on his way out of the end zone. Like, he was in the end zone for 6 yards, and they said he didn't catch the ball. All right, we hit our 50 likes tonight. 50 lines, Tracy. That's a problem. You might want to put that down, and maybe get some help. Just kidding. But great job smashing the likes tonight. We reached our goal. Now to everybody else that watches it after the live event, we need 50 more. And then for the next day, we need 50 more. Just got to keep it moving forward. So good job. I appreciate you guys' support. You guys are awesome as always. So that's it for tonight's show. I think that, we covered a few things tonight. Cameron Sutton is obviously in hot water. The NFL has come down hard with an 8-game suspension. I don't feel like it's hard enough. And for that fact, it looks like the Lions are probably, even if he does file a grievance, are going to be able to win this case. Will they go 50-50 on the deal? Will they go 60-40 on the deal? Or will they go 100% to the Lions is yet to be seen. But this was a good first move for the Lions. They're now not using their pawns anymore, right? They're starting to get the queen out. And it's about to be checkmate pretty soon for Cam Sutton, which would be a big boost to the Lions' salary cap next season. And then you have, the Lions going from first to worst this season. Is it a possibility? Anything's a possibility. Do I believe it's going to happen? Absolutely not. Michael Thomas to the Lions. Brad Holmes has already said we're not hiring. We're not hiring. So until he puts the for hiring sign out again or posts something on Indeed, I think we're all good. And lastly, Calvin Johnson and Amon Ra. They're going to be two Detroit Lions players that will live in infamy of what they've done for this team and what they will continue to do for this team on the field with Amon Ra and off the field with Calvin Johnson. Amon Ra is on his heels right now. He is running and gunning to be better than what Calvin Johnson did. And I believe that he has the tools to do it. The question is, can he do it and stay a Lion for the next 6 seasons to get there? Averaging 1,310 yards. The receptions, I don't think, is going to be a problem. I mean, he's smoking them in receptions. So that was our topics for tonight. And then tomorrow we'll be back on the Rise and Grind morning show starting at 8 o'clock. I appreciate you guys all joining me tonight. I don't know if you missed the Michael Thomas talk or not, J-Rod, but it was, I think it was the second topic we covered tonight. It was quick, it was brief, and it was pretty much what I just said a minute ago. Michael Thomas isn't coming to Detroit. The hiring line is closed in Allen Park. So next up, our next goal. So my next goal is 100 likes, 15 subscribers. And then as you guys notice, when this thing kind of clicks through, if you guys are on Facebook, the Rockdown Detroit Lions Facebook is going, just gangbusters lately. There's a ton of information on the Rockdown Detroit Lions Facebook page. A lot of cool content that's being posted there. So if you're into Facebook, look up Rockdown Detroit Lions on Facebook. It's all in the descriptions of of every show, live or video. So join us over on Facebook. We got a lot of fun stuff going on over there, and more giveaways, and more content that we're putting out. We're having fun with it. So anyway, appreciate you guys again tonight. It's Monday night, back to Off the Cuff. Hey, we're only a couple weeks away from training camp, and we are going to be inundated with so much content. It's going to be like, man, why can't we go back to May for just a minute so I can catch my breath? But it is what it is. We're off and running. NFL's 24/7. Here we go. We'll see you guys all in the next one. You guys have a great night, and we'll see you in the morning.